active. I go to the water aerobics once or twice a week and work out in the water. And I walk quarter to half a mile every day.
Wow, water aerobics, walking, all good things. Well, we here at Fox 5 want to say thank you for your service, Mr. Duncan, and have a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Boats. The ships responsible for delivering tanks, vehicles, and troops onto Normandy shore. Additional American ships in the huge Allied convoy included minesweepers, frigates, coastal ships, and PT boats. Firing from just 800 yards offshore. At Pointe du Hoc, the destroyer USS Satterlee and 2 other ships fired shells from close range at Germans who were dropping grenades and gunfire on 225 Army Rangers of the 2nd Battalion who were climbing the cliff. All along Omaha, U.S. naval ships had become up-close artillery support for soldiers on the beach, taking the place of Army tanks that...
After that, you have the cost of war. Here he is, transformed, shell-shocked.
It's called A Soldier's Journey. 5 scenes, 38 figures, every story deeply personal and emotional, especially for veterans like Wilfred Selby, a medic who treated soldiers wounded in combat. And as he looks at the faces of these sculptures, he can't help but feel overwhelmed.
It's very emotional. What you were trying to do.
Saban has been sculpting since August of 2019. He has a 4-year sculpting period, and as each section is completed, it's taken to a foundry where it's cast in bronze. By December of 2023, A Soldier's Journey is expected to be completed and will be shipped to the National Mall in Washington, D.C. to the World War I Memorial Park for a special unveiling on Memorial Day of 2024.
This is only...
And for these massive corporate entities. So the state grows its base, grows its power, having almost unlimited power over the population and keeping them in total control. And the corporations, nevertheless, get virtual monopolies on the economy. So it's a kind of a monopoly scheme, really, is what it comes down to. For the corporations, that's what they're looking at, is the potential to monopolize the market. And at least, if not strictly monopolies, then cartelization of the economy. That is the growing of cartels who control every aspect of production and consumption and prices and so forth. So we're looking at like a kind of woke cartel situation in which only those companies that are effectively sustainable, so-called socially responsible or social justice oriented, and governance savvy in terms of how they relate to their populations and the state. Those seem to be the companies that are favored, just as in China there are favored corporations that have
controversy like abortion are pushed to the fore again, fueling the discord of these already troubled times. Even the security of our highest court is being rocked at present as protesters intimidate Supreme Court justices outside their own homes. Is there pattern to this chaos? Is it more than just the consequence of bad policymaking and mainstream media fanning the flames of people's frustrations and angst? Could the tears spreading across the fabric of this country be intentional, part of a master plan? Or is this suspicion rightly dubbed a conspiracy theory? This is what the anti-woke professor Michael Rectenwald will be filling us in on today. Professor Rectenwald is a champion of free speech and a steadfast opponent of totalitarianism in all of its forms, including woke ideology. He's the author of 11 books and was a professor of liberal studies and global liberal studies at NYU. Professor Michael Rectenwald, welcome to The Wide Angle.
Hi, Brendan. Great to be here. Thank you.
The name Klaus Schwab gets thrown around a lot. It's part and parcel of this idea that the world is heading as a whole to a kind of global totalitarian system where people's rights are going to be drastically infringed upon, the freedoms that we take for granted are going to be suffocated. This suspicion, I think, has come to the fore more in recent times, particularly with the kind of policies that have come out of COVID. What's the main reason you see that this isn't just merely a conspiracy theory?
Well, I mean, everything that the WEF, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab and company, and all of the corporate and state partners that have been signed on to this project have basically openly admitted and avowed a particular plan, and this plan is called the Great Reset, and it's well underway. It is not a conspiracy theory because it's not a conspiracy by definition. By definition, a conspiracy would be something that's hidden, that's secret, that has some sort of agenda that's kept from public view, whereas this is just an open, avowed project. And so, so it's really not a conspiracy theory to talk about it as such.
Right. Currently, in America, we're seeing a number of interesting phenomena, political phenomena, economic phenomena. There's a food shortage crisis currently in America. There's a shortage of baby formula, a situation where millions of Americans basically can't afford to buy meat anymore. We've got a crisis at the southern border. All sorts of stuff like this is happening. Do you see a connection between this different phenomena and the idea that we're being pushed towards a more
vaccine mandates? And of course, with, Big Pharma, they became effectively deputized to what they got is in exchange for giving the state increased powers of coercion, they got the power of patents and a monopoly over the health situation in terms of the COVID outbreak. So they managed to eliminate all other possible treatments, and then they gained enormous wealth on that basis, but they also aided the state in its powers of coercion over the population. So this is exactly the kind of dynamic we can expect, where corporations and the state basically work together to increase their power and also to abet and aid particular favored corporate partners to basically monopolize the economy.
I think the pharmaceutical industry and vaccines are a really salient example.
A huge amount of military resources, threatening to overwhelm the Ukrainian defensive line. We're also seeing more long-range missile attacks on civilian areas behind the front lines. President Biden is once again accusing Vladimir Putin of war crimes.
Not only is he trying to take over Ukraine, he's really trying to wipe out the culture and identity of the Ukrainian people. Attacking schools, nurseries, hospitals.
Putting pressure on Russia is literally a matter of saving lives. Every day of delay means more dead Ukrainians.
Some NATO allies are also floating the idea of following Russian oligarchs to buy their way out of sanctions and use the money to rebuild Ukraine. The World Health Organization is now discussing ways to curb the ongoing spread of monkeypox. The CDC says there are 9 confirmed cases of the virus in 7 states. The WHO met in Geneva for the agency's annual assembly to talk about options. The WHO Director for Global Infectious Hazard Preparedness called on governments around the world to make containing the virus a top priority.
We are afraid that there will be a spread in community, but currently it's very hard to assess this risk. We think that if we put in place the right measure now, we probably can contain this easily.
Health officials say, for the most part, cases have been found in gay men, but they say the virus is by no means contained within the LGBTQ community. More relief is on the way for parents searching tirelessly for baby formula. Both were taken to the hospital and are expected to survive. DeKalb County Police arrested 2 people in connection to a deadly February shooting. Police say Dexter Cooper and Soraya Corbin are responsible for shooting Brandon Barnett while he was in his car on Montreal
Road near I-285. Now, according to police, Cooper and Corbin shot Barnett while he was in the driver's seat. He drove to short distance before crashing and later died at the hospital. The suspects each face a murder charge. Well, good.
Somebody got out of the car that was following him and shot and killed him. And he was laying down in her front yard, and she said she saw him laying down from her window.
Police have not released the name of the victim. Authorities are urging anyone with information to give them a call. DeKalb County deputies have named another Ajang Ruak. They say he was involved in the shooting at the Brandon Hills condominium complex. That's where 3 people died and 3 others were wounded. Authorities have already arrested 25-year-old Ofieho Ohego in this case. He is charged with murder and aggravated assault. New at 10, police are searching for a group that vandalized the building of the company contracted to build a police and fire training center in DeKalb County. Surveillance video from overnight shows 3 suspects wearing white painter suits. They shattered several windows and painted, quote, "Drop Cop City or else" on the contractor's building located in Birmingham, Alabama. Brassfield and Gorey says it suffered extensive damage, totaling nearly $80,000. All right.
Robb Elementary School. Texas Department of Public Safety now says students reportedly called 911 multiple times begging for help while trapped inside the classroom with the gunman.
Yes, I was misled. I am livid about what happened. There are people who deserve answers the most, and those are the families whose lives have been destroyed.
We're also learning new details about the suspected gunman. Police say they had no reason to believe he was going to unleash violence that day except for Facebook messages immediately before the shooting. The grandfather of the shooter says he has no idea why his grandson did this.
I don't know. I wasn't inside his mind. I don't know what he was thinking or what. If he had this plan.
Meanwhile, several rallies took place nationwide calling for new laws on gun control in the wake of this week's mass shooting.
To those who are attending the NRA convention across the street, you are not our enemies. We are not yours.
The One Star Foundation has set up a donation site to provide victims' families with financial help and anything else they may need. In Uvalde, Texas, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
The mass shootings for more investment in school security, but experts debate whether more heavily fortified schools are the right solution. In cases like Uvalde, security measures can fail or backfire. Robb Elementary School had a safety plan that included a property fence and a policy to keep classroom doors closed and locked. But police say the 18-year-old shooter was able to enter a back door that was propped open before barricading himself in a classroom with those children and opening fire.
Developing this to end peacefully. They are asking 17-year-old Jamari Marable to turn himself in and give his side of this story.
What we're after is speaking to this young man.
Sandy Springs police want to talk to North Springs High School senior Jamari Pee-wee Marshall. They say the 17-year-old North Springs High senior shot and killed his aunt's boyfriend, Jazze Marshall, following an altercation the couple had here at Dunwoody Point Apartments Monday night.
In that dispute, a boyfriend and girlfriend got into a physical altercation. After the dispute had ended, the nephew got a firearm and shot and killed the 21-year-old.
Police where the investigation stands. Still ahead.
President Biden.
News Edge reporter Rob DiRienzo.
Yeah, well, take a look at these. We found these at the spot where this all happened. They are tiny, but the guy who was hit has a nice-sized welt on him, and now he's weary to walk around his own neighborhood.
We're walking in sessions along a rock wall, and I heard this tut-tut-tut-tut sound.
For Thomas Painter, a leisurely stroll around Marietta ended with a sting and a call to 911. He says the pellets were fired from a black pickup truck as he and his wife walked their neighbor's dog.
I looked back at my wife and the dog, and I was like, well, thank God they weren't shot.
But Painter was. Check out this welt left on him. The black pickup then sped off.
As soon as that happened, they gunned it, and they turned right. Like, in less than 2 seconds, they were out of view.
Marietta police tell Fox 5 that they traced that truck back to a 16-year-old boy who they say was behind the wheel at the time of the incident Sunday afternoon. It's not clear who, if anyone, was in the passenger seat. Cops said because of the suspect's age, they can't tell us much, but they say the teenager is charged. Neighbors on Session Street have been on edge ever since.
You know, that's
Evening, folks. I thought I'd ask everyone a question. Do you know your primary colors and your secondary colors? Okay. What colors do you get when you mix blue and red together? Is it pink? Is it orange? Is it black? Is it white? I'll tell you what color you get when you mix them. Need I say more?
Now, the response to that directive, predictable. Some of the customers just ignored their bills. And now, it is time to pay up. The City of Atlanta tax bill does not take care of the water charges. To pay all the workers who have to use the purchased equipment, it takes a lot to keep the taps on. An extraordinary number of customers have fallen behind.
What is the current amount of past due water bills?
We receive an update on it every day. We're at 124 million, of which about 49 million is comprised of 8% of the accounts. So we've been able to isolate. We're working our way down from the largest amount.
That number is growing daily. $124,398,057.
If we can get a list of the top 50 accounts for single family, multifamily.
And that list is being assembled.
All this is in preparation for a planned amnesty period that we're seeking to do this summer, at which time we will offer folks the opportunity to come and get on some more flexible payment plans.
And the amnesty plans may differ. If your bill is enormous, it is possible the city could reduce the total amount after you show that you are paying a portion of the bill for consecutive months. Now, what I've just told you...
59 small satellites into space that will be used for various types of data collection. This was SpaceX's 22nd launch and landing of the year.
Been able to locate working a network that we have created of nonprofits and local stakeholders, and try to identify formula to the greatest of our capacity, and try to not solve the formula shortage, but try to hopefully help in a short term.
A plant is expected to reopen in early June. Baby formula from Abbott will begin trickling into stores about 6 to 8 weeks after that. Extensive damage caused to their Alabama office.
A public safety task force issues its action plan and recommendations to curb violence that's plaguing the Buckhead area. All of you tonight on Fox 5 News Edge at 11. I'll break down nearly 30 recommendations that they now have for city leaders.